Hello and welcome to another movie review from MBE. Today, John and I, this is Friday night here in the UK.
Yes.
We are going to be discussing Bahubali, I hope I pronounced that right. The beginning
Bahubali.
from 2015, John.
Yes, 2015.
So, this film, running time, 2 hours and 39 minutes, seems to be a standard thing for Indian films so far.
Well, the ones we are watching.
Yeah, in our journey anyway, John. And this film was directed by S.S. Rajamouli and stars the likes of Prabhas. There's a whole host of stars in here, I'm sure, John, but he is a standout for us, obviously, as we are learning these actors from India. But 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb suggests, John, even before we saw the trailer for it, it's a very good film, very epic looking as well in that trailer. Both of us did the trailer reaction. Yeah. I think it was one of the first ones we did.
Done too.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
KGF was the first, I think.
Well, I think we did Bahubali, the beginning, and we did the conclusion as well. Thoroughly enjoyed. We really shouldn't watch the trailer for the second one before we see the first movie.
It's kind of spoiled it, but
yeah, it doesn't matter.
Really.
It's an epic film, John, and it's running time. We say this every week. Our experience of running times pretty standard in Indian film by the sounds of it, by the looks of it. This film for me went in at a good pace. I think the first half of the film is very fast, but I'm sure we'll get into that as we get into the experience anyway, John. So I'm going to hand it over to you now. As always, throw you under the bus and you can take us through this review experience.
Yes, well, Stephen, I'm going to start off with just paying a little bit of homage to the director, because the whole concept of this movie, by all accounts, was buffed out of his fascination with mythology and really getting down into a rabbit hole with, I believe it's the Amar Chitra Katha comics, and that really that piqued his interest for the whole concept of this story. And what we looked into the sort of trivia of this movie, and of course I think it was his father who he'd done the narration for Shiva Gema, is it the character?
Yeah,
Shiva Gema, and they wanted to base the whole movie on her initially before they then turned their gaze onto Bahubali himself, this sort of
John,
mythical
that would
figure.
have made a very interesting film as well, because the character is very interesting throughout this film.
She is, Stephen. She's kind of more intriguing than perhaps the two main men characters in it, in the sense that she had quite a conundrum on her hands, trying to pick a king of this state. I'm going to call it a state civilization, if you'd like. And she had a really interesting life in this movie. So yeah, I could completely understand why they would have initially been looking to base it on her, but they didn't. They based it on Bahubali. And Stephen, I'm not really unhappy about that, because Prabhas is the star man in this movie, for me anyway. But we'll get into performances later on. I'm sure there is some other ones in there. Yeah. But Stephen, the intro, very quick paced. You did say this movie in general, the first hour or so I felt was incredibly quick paced, I should say, not placed.
Yeah.
Paced out my mind already. That's not good, guys. But the introduction starts with the Queen. Obviously, she comes down out of this cave, the waterfall. She's been hunted by guards. She has a newborn baby in her hands. We don't know what the hell's going on at this point. She almost sacrifices herself in a sense. Well, she does. She doesn't almost. She's an arrow on her back. Very handy with a blade. Kills two guards. And then we see that iconic shot we've seen in the trailer, Stephen, where she's holding the young Shivu Bahubali, whatever you want to call him, at this point, through the water. They save the baby, she floats away, and this is the beginning of the story, Stephen. That says it was a startling start, and I felt, I don't know whether to say this, but for me it was, from a Western perspective, like a slight play on the traditional Moses story, where he floats down the Nile in a little, I don't know, a little carrier basket or something, and becomes a prince of Egypt. It was kind of similar to that. Life sort of, the split, and this little baby goes off into a life of normality, not aware of his regalness, if you like. So I really like to start this movie. Started off with a bang. What was your thoughts on the Queen? Her ability to take down those guards, the shot of the baby outside the river, and just the general starting, the notion of separating this baby from life above.
It showed your cunningness, John. Certainly, she came out of nowhere. They were totally caught off guard, pardon the pun. But it also showed us a sort of landscape of the surroundings as well, of where this is going to be mostly set. Yeah, beautiful, John. I know we'll go into the CG as we, going into this review, but those opening shots, I felt the waterfall shots were really well done. I know they were shot at actual waterfalls, but it was
Oh, it was
heavy
enhanced, yeah.
CG to enhance obviously the sort of fantasy element of the surroundings. But it was a great intro, John, and that obviously took us into the sort of growing up sequences right after it as well, with Shiva, which I felt was maybe a little bit rushed, as if the director really wanted to get to the meat and bones of the story as quickly as possible, and obviously have your man Prabhas in this film as soon as possible, and you can't blame him. You know, he's obviously a star attraction for the film, but I just felt that the grown up sequences were a little bit
quick
and frenetic at times. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more of the younger Shiva at this point, to just see him growing up and becoming the man that he's going to become.
Stephen, but look, it's a 2 hour and 39 long minute movie.
Plenty of time,
minute long
fair
movie.
enough.
I'm mixing words up again, not good. But we'll get through it, guys. I'm sure I'll get better as things go on. And you can't really linger too long in this younger element, because as you watch this movie, there's so much going on that he had to split it and create a whole other movie to continue and complete this story. So even with that quick-fire growing-up sequence, there still was barely enough time to get this story told under 3 hours. So I can understand why he had to sacrifice the younger form of Shivu, whatever he's called. I know he's getting multiple names. And also, Stephen, you're right, it was very frenetic, but I liked the establishment of his infatuation with what's going on up above on that sort of plateau above the waterfalls.
John, it was almost Moana, looking out at the horizon, wanting to know exactly what's out there, very curious.
And they sort of deemed this as like a holy site. I think the people down below, they established this waterfall as a sort of godly site. You can't go above it, there's nothing above there. Of course, they know otherwise, because they rescue him. But they're sort of creating an elaborate ruse for Shiva at this point. But I liked the shots of him constantly trying to climb the waterfall and failing. It was almost like Batman in the Dark Knight Rises.
That crossed my mind as
you
well.
You have to become... You need something to complete your desire, if you like, and it's obviously this mask that falls down at some point. We also get when he grows up, the moment where he rips the god out of the ground, basically telling them, I'm bigger than this now. I don't give a shit about your idol, your god. I belong up on top of those waterfalls, and I'm going to be there, and here's what I think of your god. You're not sacrificing and giving anything to it. He rips it out, and he just essentially punts it down at the waterfalls.
Much to the dismay of his stepmother.
Yes. But he puts it at the waterfalls, and that's sort of him hoping for a sign from above that something's going to happen. And of course it does. A mask falls down, and this is what establishes him. Maybe confirms in his mind that he belongs up there. There's something up there. Indeed, he wasn't hallucinating. And we get the climbing sequence, Stephen, shortly after that. And before we get into that, though, there's another point I've made. They establish within the first 10 minutes of this movie, and I wasn't too unaware of it, because as I did say, I read into the director's sort of notions before this movie, it being established in mythology and in comic books. But it does establish in the first 10 minutes, this guy's a borderline superhero.
Yeah.
He's a mythological character. He's superhuman strength, with the idol getting ripped out and stuff like that. So that is really important moving forward, because there's some things that happen in this movie you're like, what the hell? How is he lifting this up? How's this guy fighting a huge bull?
Yeah.
It's established within the first 10 minutes, and that really helps me as an audience member anyway. I
John,
don't know about you. Settle into the world.
I think just on this journey of Indian film that we're doing just now, in hindsight, it probably would have been better for us maybe to leave the likes of Dangal to maybe the first movie, and KGF slotting in just before this or after this, for the sort of action sequences and stuff like that. But because we are coming off the back of Dangal, it did take me a little while just to adjust myself into this sort of world and accept the sort of physics of the world as well, and the visuals. But it didn't take me out the picture or anything. There's one thing I did say to you before we came on air, and it was something I was thinking about as well. The story to this is superb. I know we're going to get into the technical aspects as well later on, John, with the score and stuff like that. But there was just something, there was a good feel about this film as well, and the cast. But it didn't really take me out the picture. I accepted it as a fantasy sort of surroundings, a fantasy world, if you like, and when you sort of filled me in the sort of comic element of it as well, it made sense.
Absolutely, Stephen. It's important to establish that early on because there is some incredible stuff happening.
John, we've got a comment just before you move on there. It's 4 a.m. in India, that's right. All are sleeping. This is from Media Attack. But Bahubali is the #1 movie of India. That is, we know that. We also,
wake up.
Yeah, exactly, wake up.
I'm up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm a lunatic.
At the end of the day, we do these reviews at the same time every week, roughly the same time, wherever it may be. And it's really there for playback ability anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But Stephen, look, I'm not going to get drawn into the whole time thing because I'm a lunatic with time, as you do know. Borderline nocturnal.
Yeah.
I stay up way too late, and it affects my ability to do reviews like this, clearly, because I'm mixing words up. But look, let's move on, man, shall we? The climbing scene, Stephen. What did you make about this? I'll admit, when I first was watching it, I felt it was a dream sequence, and then I realised when he gets to the top, he's not waking up. That is very much real. But Stephen, I liked the sequence. It was about maybe 5-10 minutes long, a dance sequence.
Yeah. I
liked the way they sort of framed it with the female singer. She's almost like a ghostly apparition taunting him. She was his drive to get up to the top of this finally, and it was almost like the character, I think's Avanthika.
Yeah.
It was like an ethereal form of her guiding him up the waterfalls. There was so much going on. I don't know if it was just as part of the actual song and dance number, just to elongate it out a bit, because I just thought it was a traditional sort of waterfall, but it almost turned into a game, a level in a game. He was getting up and swinging through ropes and stuff like that. Yeah. But I did enjoy it, man. I liked the visual element of it. I've said here, cinematography, really, really good.
Yeah.
And nifty musical element, I've said nifty just means good. A nice, cool little musical element. Yeah. And incredible visuals. So, what was your thoughts on that? Did you like me, the sort of visual representation of a singing woman, that being a motivation for him to finally make this climb?
John,
and what did you make about the music?
The music was fine, John. It's what I expect, but the placement of the music and the visuals, I'm used to now. I understand what the purpose is. Certainly in a movie like this, I understand its purpose as well. You know, it's that representation, a visual representation of obviously his struggle and his desires as well. You know, and his need
and his strength.
And the mask is a great metaphor as well. I thought that was very cleverly used. The singing woman. I take it this is the Avanthika, is it?
I don't know if it's the same actress. Maybe I'm not sure.
But I think that it's just representing her presence anyway. I think that if it wasn't the same person, it certainly was.
Yeah, she's watching them on.
Yeah, it's you
can make it. You can climb
get
and
to the
stuff
top.
like that.
But the actual climbing scene, I did laugh a few times, especially when he fell. I don't know why, but it was just the way he fell. I went, he's never surviving this.
Oh, was that the first one?
It's the
when
first
he was
one,
younger?
Yeah, he's never surviving this.
Yeah, 100 feet.
Did they not fall when he was older as well? I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, he made the jump for the branch and missed it and fell down. Yeah, again,
that was earlier on though. But it didn't bother me a bit. But it was good to see. You know, I thought, seeing this film for the first time, and I did say to you as well that I might have to see this film another couple of times to fully understand. It's a long film. There's a lot going on in it. I don't really know, obviously, the sort of the history and the mythology of the character and the story. But as the film moved on, I was understanding what was happening. But I think that it's one of those movies that I enjoyed for the story, and I liked where it was going. But at that point in the film, I did think that, is this what the film's going to be about? Him getting to the top of this mountain, because this will not interest me for 2.5 hours if that's the story. But thankfully it wasn't.
No, they get that over and by with Stephen within the first 15 to 8 minutes of the movie. Then it really does move on apace.
Yeah.
And look, the way they structure it, we'll get into that shortly, the structure of this film, but they're not scared to focus on different characters. It's not all about Prabhas in this movie. There is huge swathes of this movie where he's not in it, and they're focusing on other characters. And we certainly get that with Avanthika. When she enters the fray, she slays about half a dozen men. When he finally arrives on this plateau, he's watching her from
John,
afar.
I love that scene. You know why? Because Shiva's kind of lurking in the background thinking, I'm going to rescue her. He ended up hiding from her. It was great.
Behind the tree, yeah. That was a good moment. And obviously it's important as well because it sets up the main pretext of this story, which is all about Queen Devasena. She's been held captive by, I'm going to butcher the name, Balara Deva, the sort of antagonist. We'll get into that later as well. He's not that much of an antagonist for me. I actually quite liked him, strangely, but clearly I like evil characters, you know, because this guy's meant to be evil. But she's been held captive. She's been tortured, I think, 20 odd years, 25 years.
25 years, yeah.
If not longer. And also she requires rescuing. So that's the main pretext. And it's only when Avanfika comes in, she's in this cave system. There's a sort of cult, a group of soldiers and stuff there want to rescue the Queen. That's when that's established. And Stephen, that's what I says as well. Prabhas is watching from afar, but he certainly takes a side sort of step out of the story at times in this movie. And it's no fewer than when you see Katapa as well being introduced. But before we get into that, what did you make about the Avanfika introduction into this movie? I know the dog's just farted. It ain't good, man. It ain't good. That dog's eating some horrendous food. Avanfika, yeah. And then obviously the establishment of Devasena. You see her briefly being chained outside. She's been treated like cattle or something like that. Yeah, I think they say. What did you make about that? And then finally, Katapa, when he comes in.
You are establishing your antagonists in the movie, with her capture. I know we did talk about this, John, before we came on, that there's no clear sort of villain in the film. I think to an extent, until we see the second one, I think the conclusion, then we'll not have that conclusion.
That's what a comic just said, Stephen. The story will amaze you, I think he says. I can't really read it when you see the second part. That's something we'll get into as well. The way they structure this, it's quite clever.
Well, it's going to be funny, John, because once we're done and dusted with this review, and then we'll obviously go away and we'll watch the conclusion, and then come back next Friday. It's going to be funny watching this one again, and some of the theories we've got in our head and some of the interpretations we've got in our head once we've seen the conclusion. It's going to change our sort of viewpoint, but we can only act on what we've saw so far. But I thought Avanfika, strong female character, liked her. I thought the scene near the sort of river where she's putting her hand in and the fishes are coming in. You've got Shiva lurking in the water again. He's a bit of a lurker at this point, and he's an absolute creepo. But
prodding her hand.
I loved the way the fishes were shot as well. I don't know if that was CG. I would imagine it was, but it was just a great scene, great sequence as well. Very calm at this moment in the film.
It shows you he's infatuated with her too. He realises that she's the owner of the mask,
but she knew that someone was there as well, as we established later on.
Yeah, but just couldn't quite catch him.
Queen Devasena as well is obviously in a sorry state at this point. She's chained up. She's kind of a hole in the ground with a sort of bars
cage,
kind of thing going on. She's obviously just downtrodden. But
we don't know much about her at this point. It gets established in the second half of the movie.
There's references to what she's done and stuff like that, which we don't fully establish. I don't know if we actually do fully establish the whole thing at this point in the movie anyway, until we see the second one, but she's there for a reason. But it was a good introduction to her as well.
It certainly was, Stephen. Obviously Katapa, I think it is, the bald guy with the beard, the sort of slave arms master.
He's my favourite, John.
He was great, man. And his introduction, when the sort of Persian weaponsmith comes in with the double-bladed sword,
that was good.
He's like, you can have it, it's not quick enough for our fighting style. They have a little fight. He absolutely schools him. He sort of slices part of the blade off. They then sit down. He establishes, look, I'm a lowly servant. It's by buff or something. They have pledged their services to the royals in this world, if you'd like. And then obviously we see the Balaradeva fighting the bulls and stuff like that. And this is the first time we see the opposite side of this story. We've seen the sort of protagonistic side. This is when we see the antagonistic. Also, Katapa is not an antagonist, although the reveal at the end kind of puts a different light on him. But there'll be a reason for that. It'll be established in the second movie why he acted out the way he did. You can see there's some conflict between him and Balaradeva. He sort of says to him after the bullfight, I know you want to kill me after what I've done or something like that.
That's a good line.
But you can't, because he's obviously conflicted. He has to pledge his life to him. But what was your thoughts on the Katapa sequence, the introduction, the bullfight, and then the whole connection? He has a connection with Devasena. And it gets established again later on what that connection is and how he's intrinsically sort of connected to Bahubali and the whole story as a whole. What did you make about Katapa, the bullfight and all that? Just
prior to the bullfighting, John, which I know we're going to talk about, I liked the introduction to him with the Persian guy. I felt that it was a good way of establishing his sort of morals and his beliefs and obviously his loyalty to
he's an honourable man.
Yeah, he's an honourable man. You know,
he stabbed someone in the back.
Well, we'll find out why. Obviously, in the second part, but
it's not in character at all, from what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean the bullfight bit for me was really just to establish the audience, the power of this
He's
Bala
a wobbly adversary.
Deva. Yeah, I thought. Yeah, he's just an absolute brute. A force to be reckoned with. What was your thoughts, John, on the actual fighting sequence with the bull, the actual CGI? Because this is another thing we have to talk about. This is the first movie I have seen with CGI coming up in the corner, John.
Yeah.
We read, obviously, it's to do with the Indian Film Board's rules and laws that this has to come up when, obviously, animals or obviously CG that's appearing as animals in the movie, but for me it kind of took me out the picture a little bit. Personally speaking, I don't know about yourself, I just felt the bull was a bit exaggerated. I've never seen anything like that in my life. But I get and I understand and appreciate obviously what the storyteller was doing here, and obviously using an exaggerated visual, if you like, to show the strength of this man, and he dealt with this absolute
well, it nearly killed him.
Katipa
came in and sliced it, and then it gave him a chance to take it out. Steve, the way I look at this movie, as I did say, first 10 minutes it was established it was a fantastical setting. I kind of view this as the same way I'd sort of view the Lord of the Rings. There's shit going on in the Lord of the Rings that makes no sense in terms of visually the size of animals, the huge big elephants, some crazy shit going on. So that's the same way I view this. It's a sort of fantastical setting, a fantasy setting, if you like. So huge big bull doesn't really bother me. The CGI itself, we've seen that there's a comment in the chat that the CGI is great as per budget. Obviously compared to some huge Hollywood movies like Marvel movies and stuff like that, they're spending like $100 million on CG. It's ridiculous money. Comparatively, I've done my research on this movie. I think it worked out to $13 million, just under $14 million for CG. So I thought the CG for the budget was absolutely fine. You try to compare that to a Western movie. If you spend $14 million on CG over here, it ain't going to be anywhere near as epic looking as what they've accomplished in this movie. So they've certainly made it stretch a decent way. And as I did say, it served its purpose. The scene, it was to set up Balaladeva, if I can say his name. There's too many L's and too many A's in that. It set up this guy's a worthy adversary, that he's every bit, because we've seen Bahubali or Shiva doing some crazy feats of strength. It's to show you that this guy is the yin to his yang. He's every bit as strong.
That's exactly it, John.
And when we finally see these two guys going head to head in the second movie, it's going to be absolutely epic, because they're both real, and they establish it with the sort of father figure, because he's his son, as I think is revealed later on. I'm still not sure if he is the son. At one point I thought he was reincarnated.
We had a great debate about that,
but it's sort of established that the bloodlines, they're very equal. It's just differences in mentality. One's more aggressive, one's more noble and charismatic, if you like. They've got different ways of doing things, but that's really equally sort of paired, if you like. But Stephen, I enjoyed that scene. I enjoyed the introduction of Katipa. He's a really cool character throughout the whole movie, and we'll get into that in performances. I thought he was a standout. But Shiva borderline stalking Avin Fikirov says they get the long overdue confrontation, and then he sort of a musical sequence where he's taunting her. He's taking her clothes off her and he's changing her appearance and making her look more womanly, giving her some confidence in herself. She seems to be lacking confidence. I liked this musical sequence. I liked the singing from Avin Fikir. I'm not sure if the actress who played Avin Fikir, I clicked on her on IMDb and it linked me to KGF. I don't know if she's the same singer who does the dance sequence in the club.
Funnily enough, John, that did KGF cross my mind, actually. The
dance sequence in the club.
But I'm that way where we're in this journey that now I'm not confident enough to come out with things like that in case I'm wrong. But I did get that feeling as well. But there you are.
Stephen,
I think we're starting to educate ourselves here, John.
Well, Stephen, look, I'm going on a journey with obviously actors and stuff like that. I'm starting to learn the names slowly but surely, and it's a good journey, man. But I searched it up, I clicked on IMDb, I obviously seen that she was linked in some way to KGF, but look, I really enjoyed the singing and dancing. What did you make about that, the confrontation between these two characters? Obviously she realises he has came all the way up from the bottom, he's climbed these waterfalls just to give her this mask and reunite. They sort of fall in love at this point, and then they have a common purpose to go and rescue Devasena. What did you make about that? Also, we have an avalanche moment as well, which was absolutely balls to wall crazy.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, John, I liked the dialogue between both characters at this point. It was a nice line he said, I've came all this way and yet I still haven't saw you smile, or something like that. Behind this mask or something like that. I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing, John, but it was a nice line. You can see where the relationship was going after that, the way she looked at him. There was definitely chemistry there. You felt the chemistry between the two actors, which was always important as well. It had to be believable, because at that point, John, in the film, from the start, when we first see Shiva as an adult, played by Prabhas, that point on to that point was what that was leading to, and that part of the movie would have failed if those two actors hadn't got their chemistry right at that point. It was a great scene,
Stephen. That's key moving forward with these two characters. Although, what I will say, I'm forgetting her name already, Jesus Christ, Avantika. Moving forward, she kind of gets sidelined for the second half of the movie. They really establish the history going on here between the Bahubali and Barara Deva. So she does. She's prominent in the first half of the movie, and I think we see her at the end when Kitapa reveals what he done. Kitapa, I'm losing the plot here. But Stephen, look, this is going to get me into the structure. Also, the Avalanche sequence. I'll ask you what you thought of that. I mean, that was crazy, man. I have to say, I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
But again, I view this movie as a sort of Lord of the Rings. So everything that happens in it, I'm suspending my disbelief like I would in a great sort of fantasy movie over here. It's a fantasy movie. But Stephen, the film's structure an hour in, I've says he does a really good job, the director, everyone involved, of really nicely establishing the main players. He's not afraid to leave Shiva out for long periods, I did say that, and obviously just long extended sequences, very quick pace too. Yeah. I've says, what was your thoughts on the structure of this movie? Because we'll get into it at the end.
John,
the structure changes quite a bit at the end.
It's unbelievable, and in a good way. I said to you prior to us coming on air that the last hour of the film is probably the best bit for me now in hindsight. Yeah. But that the first hour and 45 minutes was great storytelling. Yeah. It was leading up to, obviously, getting back to sort of the origins of Bahubali. But I think the Avalanche scene for me was almost comic book. If that makes any sense, just the sequence of it, it was very fast, and at
it's
first
just a plot device to get them away from danger, really, isn't it?
The danger was really close to them as well, and I thought, how are they going to get out of this? And I still don't fully understand how they did get out of it. I know that he moved a rock and it caused the avalanche, caused all them to slide past them as well, which I never really got the sort of physics of. But you're right, John. You've got to suspend belief. In fantasy anyway. It doesn't matter where the film comes from or anything like that. When it's a fantasy movie, just accept what you're seeing and enjoy the experience.
Absolutely.
But I felt that the movie structure throughout, not just at this point, was very unusual. I know we'll get into the last hour when we come to that point, John, and I will make my point at that point. But up to that sequence, I felt it was a very fast-paced movie.
It was, Stephen, and look, it never really slows down at any point in this movie. I'm not going to say it ever gets slower, but there's sequences where it kind of does turn down a little bit. But Stephen, the one thing I'll say, and I've said this at this point, my one criticism is the way they sort of paint the antagonists, a little bit cardboard, villainish. They don't even try to humanise them. That's what I'm going to say. The sort of guards, and I think it's Magamati. I've wrote down
Magamati, yeah.
Magamati or Mafi. The way that they're torturing civilians and stuff like that, they're just establishing these guys are shitheads. That they don't try and humanise. And I suppose that isn't a criticism. It's absolutely fine. They're the villains, and that's it. But that would be my one criticism of the sort of first half of this movie. They don't even try to humanise them.
I don't think you have to though, John. I think
they're sort of capturing a woman and keeping her chained for 25 years. So
well, exactly. That's not a nice thing, is it?
No.
Let's be honest.
But I'll get into that with Barara Deva. Why I don't really care about that. I think he's vindicated the way he get treated. But Stephen, we spoke about the Avalanche moment. We're not going to speak about that again. And also, they set up at this point Shiva confronting Barara Deva, and also Devasena and the whole becoming Bahubali thing, or not becoming, because I'd lost at this point. I'm writing it down going through the journey. I thought he was going to turn into Bahubali. It turns out he's the son of Bahubali. Well, he does become Bahubali. He gets christened with his proper name, if you like, I suppose.
The father becomes the son and the father.
Yes, exactly.
Classic line from Marlon Brando's Superman.
Yeah, they're intertwined. Intrinsically intertwined. There's a lot of eyes and tongue twisters. But Stephen, they set up the sort of cataclysmic moment where he goes to Magamati, or Mathi, whatever it is. And we go there, the statue's getting raised, big huge statue again. Barala Deva doesn't care about these underlings.
No.
They get crushed. It's a couple of offerings to the god or whatnot. And we get the cool moment where the crowd starts chanting Bahubali again. He says at one point to, I think, Davasena, the name's long forgotten. Forget about him. He's dead.
Yeah.
Not only is he dead, they don't remember his name. He's left their thoughts as well.
Yeah.
And the moment where I think the one of the slaves pulling the statue up recognises him and starts shouting Bahubali. I thought that was a really cool moment. And then we get the sort of cat and mouse game between Shiva and obviously Barala Deva and moving around in the shadows and stuff like that. What did you make about that sequence?
John, it was good. I liked it. I liked the sequence.
Death of that little bitch. I think it was Barala Deva's cousin or something.
There was a white shot that reminded me of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, moving about, and you can see them in the wide shot moving about, jumping down and stuff like that. You saw Shiva jumping about like that, and very nimble. It was great.
Yeah,
the best bit about the whole sequence, John, that whole sequence was his escape, which I thought was amazing, on the chariot, with the horses, and the way that they try to trap him in. I thought that was great, the way that those, I think it was hay bales that came down, I think it was anyway, that came down to block his path, and his escape was excellent. But it was just great, John, and it reminded me of that film we watched a couple of weeks ago. There was a sequence very similar to that. Padmavat. Yeah, there was a sequence very similar to that as well. I can't remember exactly the same one, but it was that sort of sneaking around kind of thing going on. He was actually trying at one point to put the guards' clothes on, but he didn't have them on in time. They caught him. He just had to run. I was laughing at that. But
Prabhas is great, man, in this movie. Stephen, he's the key for this movie. Yeah. He's, in a sense, he is the main man. And if his charisma and his personality and his performance doesn't shine through, then the whole thing fails. Yeah. And it really does. And he's an interesting looking guy as well. He's got some of the best head of hair I've ever seen in my life. His physique, something we have to speak about. I'm sure we'll do it maybe more so in the actual performance, but the whole transformation, he puts weight on and then loses it for the second half of the movie, which I thought was fantastic. Or first half of the movie, which I thought was fantastic dedication. You're right, it was some cool little moments, and obviously the cat and mouse game. He recognises him, Barala Deva. He's like, I've seen those eyes before. Yeah. We have that moment, Katapa and the little bitch guy, they're torturing Devasena. Decapitations happening in this scene and everything, and this is what really sets up the flashback sequence of the movie. Katapa's bowing at Shiva's feet. I think putting his feet on his head.
I think it's only fair that at this point, my wife and I were watching the film very late on, and she was asking me a few things about the film, and I kind of got caught off guard, and I started explaining. She was to this side, and I forgot to watch this part of the scene, and it was only maybe about a minute or two that sort of line, we'll tell the story back 50 years ago, blah blah blah, but I'd missed this part. So I was very confused, because obviously your main man is playing two characters in the film, and I thought he's still playing Shiva, and I was like, where did the brother come from? I don't understand. We've already established his backstory where he became in the river at the start, so why is he now grown up and he's in amongst all the I get really confused, and I had to go back and watch that section of the film again. I'm easily confused most of the time anyway, but it was a key point,
you missed the hints that they're getting back in time, then you're screwed, Steve.
Once I watched that part, John, I started to enjoy it, and I said this last hour of the movie for me was probably the best part of the movie as well, because I'm not going to say I know where they're going with this in the conclusion, but you can see that the last hour of this film was set up to lead into the next part of the film.
I'll make a prediction just now before we crack on with the rest of the review. I think Bahubali's going to face off against Barala Deva. I think Katapa's going to redeem himself. He killed his father. I think he's going to help the downfall of Barala Deva. I think that's what's going to happen. I may be wrong. We'll watch it this week or next week at some point. Yeah. But I think I'm going to be right. Something tells me. But Stephen, the flashback, it's a cool little history lesson. It shows you what's been happening.
It's a totally different film, John. Yes, it is. What we've just watched for the last hour and 45 minutes was great, but let's leave that now. We're actually going to tell you another story now, and that's what it's like. I've never seen that done in a film before, Steve, this late on in a film.
The structure as well, we'll get into that later, but it's really cool, establishing the present day and then leaving that for another movie, and then going off and giving you the meat and bones of what is making these very characters in the present day sort of tick. What's making them do what they're doing. Ballala Deva, why is he such a tyrannical leader? Why is his father figure sitting with this deformed arm and just, you know what I mean, think he's God Almighty and stuff like that? It sort of it makes all of the present day characters, it sort of establishes why they are what they are, why they're doing what they're doing. It really interesting.
John, just before we move on, we've got another comment coming in from Media Attack. It says both have the same face, Val and Son. It's because of the same actor. It really did confuse me, and I thought, what's happening here? And he's not aged, and she has aged, and
he could have at least shaved off a moustache. Come on, Prabhas.
Why has he put dye in his beard as well? You know, he had a grey beard, now he's got a dark sort of brown beard as well. But Amradera Bahubali and Mahadera Bahubali is a surname, both have the same face.
Yeah, Stephen, you mentioned beard dye. I missed Ballala Deva having some dye in his beard at the start when he's fighting the bull. And I was wondering, is that his son as well?
Yeah,
then?
no.
But no, it's the same guy. That's definitely the same guy. He's older.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So there was I missed the difference.
Because I thought as well, there's something alright here about the
he's aged really well.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And again, the beard game, absolutely stupendous. I've never seen beards like this in my life since I've started watching these Indian movies.
Yeah.
Incredible. Shahid Kapoor and obviously Ranveer Singh and Padmavat, incredible beard game.
Yeah.
The man who plays Ballala Deva, I've not got his name in front of me. I will open up IMDb and find it, but his beard game is off the charts in this movie as well. But Stephen, obviously they set up the two warring sons, they're brothers, but they're not really brothers. They're sort of half brothers, perhaps
step brothers. Yeah,
they're fighting for the ascendancy to be the king of I'm going to say Daggubati again. I hope that's the way you say it. I'm just listening to the way the actual people said it in the movie. They're fighting, and again, growing up sequence a lot slower paced than what we've seen with Shiva growing up at the start of the movie, but still pretty quick.
Yeah,
showing you that they're both really good at fighting. They're both good mentally. They're really equal, but they're just different characters completely. One's more driven and determined, and he doesn't get. He has no empathy. Whereas the other guy's very charismatic, a man of the people.
I was going to say that, John, but Ballala Deva is very serious throughout the film, especially his younger years. He's not really got a sense of humour, but there is a bit of a you were laughing at, John, which we'll get to. But he did have a little smirk in his face when Bahubali said, "You're going to be my head guard or whatever,
you'll be my commander, my war commander."
I'm the king, and I thought it was hilarious.
No, I won't.
But the young Bahubali as well was very charismatic. The one that goes to Katapa. During his lunch hour, if you like, and you feed me, uncle. You know, there was a lot of chemistry between both these actors, and for such a young guy, I don't know who played the young version, but he was a great actor. He was very charismatic in the very short sequence he was in, but it also showed you the sort of cheeky nature of Bahubali at this stage in his life as well, which I liked.
And he's not a sort of stringent guy for tiers and hierarchy.
No, he's in amongst the people.
He's a man of the people, and that's what really separates these two guys. And it transcends 25 plus years. After this guy's died, people still remember him as being this amazing person, and they want to fight for him and bring him back in a sense. But I'm trying to find where I'm at this point. Obviously, it continues this sort of journey, setting them up. They're doing a series of challenges. They can't separate them. They go off. I think some spy steals their war secrets, and that takes the Bahubali and Ballala Deva to this sort of, I don't even know what you'd call it.
It's almost like a village or something, like a town.
Yeah, a little. Is it not indoors? Is it not a cave or something?
I thought it was like a backwater, John. But it's indoors. It's almost like a tent sort of thing going on,
And it takes him there to try and find this guy and get back the secrets and stuff and stop him spreading things out that they don't want getting out, in a sense. And again, you see the difference between these two characters. Ballala Deva goes off and just works sort of diligently to try and find this guy. Bahubali's doing a song and dance. He's dancing with 3 women. And he's giving drink to everybody. He's throwing the sort of stones or something, and he's giving drink for all, in a sense. Give me more, that's not enough. He keeps slapping
John,
away.
that sequence, I actually see the director making a cameo. He's the sort of liquor seller. SS Rajamouli, I think his name is. I recognise his face, John. I think it's because I did some research before I watched the film in regards to the cast and crew, and when his face did come up, I went, I know his face from somewhere, but I couldn't pinpoint it.
I totally missed that, Stephen.
Yeah, it was a good little cameo.
But Stephen, again, I liked the song and dance. I liked the musical number. And just the way that it does it defines the character. This guy's a man of the people. He sort of loses track of what he's supposed to be doing. And it takes a whistle from Ballala Deva to snap him back out. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
We're here to do something. You're not drinking and dancing with these people, man. Get your shit together.
That's it,
in a sense. And that leads us to the moment you were speaking about, Stephen. He doesn't have much humour about him, Ballala Deva, but in this moment, he certainly does.
This.
On the cliff edge, hold this rope for me, I'm going to jump over and get this guy. And he's like, I'm not holding the rope, it's falling and you're dying. And the way it catches in the rock, and he kind of does Jesus, I'm stuck with this guy. And then he's going to cut it.
Yeah.
And Katipa comes and he's like, Katipa, Jesus Christ. I love that moment.
John,
and that's why I love the Ballala Deva character, Stephen. I don't view him as an antagonist. We'll get into it. He is an antagonist, but he's not an evil.
That sequence kind of showed us what it was all about, John. It also showed us Bahubali was perhaps a little bit too trustworthy as well, and a bit naive towards his half brother as well. But I thought the sequence was really funny because when that chap, the spy, jumps off the edge, you knew Bahubali was going after him with the rope anyway, and for that split second I knew for a fact he's not going to hold that rope. He's just not going to do it. The two of them are hitting the deck, and he's just going to walk away. But it was the fact that the knot get caught in that sort of little wedge. It was hilarious. You described it perfectly there, John, just with the the sort of sigh as if, I can't get rid of this guy, and then he's about to cut the rope, but at that point Katipa obviously Katipa comes, so it saves the day.
He's absolutely screwed, and then he has to hold him up, and he gives him a little look as if, there you go, I saved you. Didn't he want to kill you, man? But Stephen, that's what I say. Does this film have an antagonist? Is Ballala Deva really a villain? I've says he isn't really that bad, aside from slaving Devasena for 25 years. He's not that bad, man. This guy's been wronged. He was primed to be king alongside Bahubali, and he was always the sort of forgotten child.
John,
the black sheep.
Does it not remind you of Black Panther though?
Yeah, a little bit,
the sort of conflict there.
Yeah.
They're not Killmonger's not the out and out villain. If you can understand and sympathise, obviously, with his rationality, but it's very similar in this movie.
See, I didn't think he was an antagonist, and of course they do introduce Kalayeka, the warlord, warlord, and he's a sort of proper antagonist for me, although second movie
this is where John, they realise, obviously they've got the information from the spy now, they realise the sort of severity of what's about to go down. This is when we first hear about the Trident manoeuvre as well, and I was very intrigued. I loved the way they did this, John. It was like a battlefield sort of set out on a board. Yeah, it was great. It was a good way to explain to the audience how it was going to get set out, because layman's like ourselves don't know what a Trident manoeuvre is. No. Well, I don't anyway, John. I can't speak for you, but it was a great way to explain how this is set up. A very clever manoeuvre as well, and I liked the way that they explained that although this is textbook manoeuvres, it's never been used before, and that's why they done it. And I think that's one of the very rare occasions both half brothers agreed on something as well. Yeah, they've stole our war secrets, so we'll do something they would never think of. Yeah, Bahubali takes the right flank. Obviously, Ballala Deva takes the left flank. He's got trebuchets with big boulders, and he's got the archery and stuff. And they try to screw him. That was amazing. The blanket stuff, incredible. I thought at first, when I know we'll get into it, but just my first reaction was, this is a bit lame. They're throwing sheets at them. I went, what's going on here? But the guy pops out and smells his hand. He's like, oh shit, and then he takes the arrow and just fantastic. I know we're jumping the gun here, but again, it's two different guys, Steve. No, this is the battle. Yeah. And look, we'll speak about this. Well, it shows you both both sides that one was well equipped, while the other one had very little. But apart from exactly. I think out of the two of them, he was the better warrior because he made do with little. Absolutely. Rather than what he had, the whole arsenal, if you like. Steve, the shield bit as well, with the men all line up and the shields all interlock. How cool was that? That was I've seen that amazing. Somewhere before, John. I don't know if it was in Lord of the Rings or not. Lord of the Rings, it was the elfin knives. They were flicking them all around in order. That was incredible. It reminded me of that as well, Steve. First 5 minutes of the Fellowship with the Ring. Really cool moment. I loved the battle. The climatic battle scene. Trident manoeuvres, I've says. Yeah. Lots of CGI. Lots of huge armies colliding. Incredible body count. So many people die here. And then also we've got the Kalayeka warlord. He's sort of taunting, I'm going to marry your queen and I'll give her a proper king. There you go. He's sort of slagging them off because they can't choose a king in a sense. Yeah.
Also, the two men fighting to get to this guy as well. There's lots of stuff happening. Again, you see the different.
Whoever gets them first.
Whoever kills this warlord's the king.
Yeah.
Doesn't play out like that, and that's why Ballara Dev is absolutely vindicated in being the guy that he is, because he's wronged. He killed the warlord.
Bahubali at the same time could have done that, John.
Yeah,
but
of course
his mother's words, her words as well, were very brutal. It showed you what she was all about as well. About, I don't want him dead.
Yeah.
You know,
but cut his limbs off
and like the vultures feast on him. I thought, wow, she's ruthless.
Yeah, she is. Stephen, you see that? I don't know if it's the same woman who comes down with the baby at the end. I don't know if that's the same one. She takes the guards out. I don't know if it's what's her name again? Shev or something. I've not got the name in front of me. No, that's the other one. Devasena is the one who's locked up.
Yeah.
I think it's the actual queen, who's the mother of Ballara Deva.
Yeah.
And she sort of takes Bahubali in as an adoptive son. But yeah, she's absolutely brutal. Stephen, obviously the moment the two of them are rushing to get to this warlord as well, you see the differences in mentality. Ballara Deva has this chariot with the churning thing, and he just goes through civilians. He doesn't care.
They're almost like Skittles, weren't they?
You're putting a human shield up, you don't give a shit. I want to be king, and I'm taking them all out. I don't give a damn. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I like I like people like that who are absolutely brutal. They don't care. They'll do anything to get what they want. That is brilliant. And Bahubali's different. He thinks on his feet again. He uses the sort of ball things to take the feet out from him.
Yeah.
And he kills the guys and goes through. And then also we get the moment they break through the shields. There's lots of things going on in this battle.
There is, John. There's also the sort of human barrier, the wife and kids. I thought, how low can you get? But it shows the sort of mentality, and how far they will go. And it's another sort of choice that the brothers have got. One acts a different way to the other as well. I thought it was great. The balls, as you said, John, the ball and chain things to sort of
take the feet
away from them and bring them down to the ground level was great.
And then also they do the breakthrough. Katapa has a moment, and then Bahubali has to get back and sort of rouse the troops and say, look,
it's a great speech.
Would you rather die in the battlefield or go home and live as a coward? It reminded me of Braveheart in many ways. You can die, you can run away, and then many years from now you'll be lying in your bed and just this one chance. It was a great speech. It was rousing.
I liked it.
And then we have this sort of climatic fighting with the warlord, the Kalayeka warlord. He's toying with him. He could have killed him at any moment, Bahubali, but then obviously Ballara Deva hits him. And that mace, that big huge ball thing, that was mental. Absolutely.
It was a bit cartoony for me, John, the CG. It was a great effect in the sense of what a way to kill the villain of the movie.
Steve, did you not love the fact that the warlord sort of took the wheels out of his chariot, laughed at him, and then he just dinked the big elephant right in the head and took the elephant down? Oh, that was great.
And we get a little CG thing coming back up again.
The elephant didn't get harmed in the production of this movie.
Thankfully
not, because he absolutely sconed it. That's the word we like to use.
I love elephants as well.
Yeah. But Stephen, obviously this is a moment where Ballara Deva...
You don't hit an elephant, because the elephants never forget.
No, but if it's dead, it forgets, because it's dead. And it was dead. So, and he obviously fights. That's another gripe I have, Stephen. Ballara Deva's fighting this warlord, and then he takes a break, and Bahubali comes in and fights him. And he's like, these goons in front of him, and he just can't get out of the way.
Do you know
this guy was cutting people down.
Yeah, but you know it's almost like, John, it's almost like that scene in Endgame where they're trying to get the gauntlet. There's always somebody in the road, and it goes on for too long for my liking, because there was a point where they were facing off, and then I don't know, there was just so many extras, in his face at that point that it just kept getting, held back.
And then he just hits him.
It
from a
served the
distance.
story, so we'll let.
And then obviously he gets shunned. He kills the warlord. The fight's over. He thinks he's king. Even Bahubali says, "Well, there you go. Fair enough. You deserve the king.
Nod,
You deserve the sort of the throne, if you like." And then she takes it away from him, and that's why he becomes the man he is.
Yeah.
She creates this monster. She says, "You're going to be my war commander or whatever," and he's going to be king, and he's sort of like, well, then you go then.
Yeah.
And that's it, really. And then also we get the moment, the reveal.
Yeah.
That he...
Because we're back to the sort of...
Back to present day, yes.
Yeah.
And it's revealed that... the
question is asked, isn't it?
Yeah, the question is asked, how did this man die? How is he not here? And obviously Katapa says, well, I killed him.
Yeah.
The only way you could kill a man like that is stabbing him in the back. Who done it? Me. And that's the cliffhanger.
It was me.
I did it. What did you make about that ending, the cliffhanger? I like a good cliffhanger myself.
Yeah.
And obviously, us knowing
John,
in advance that there's a second movie out.
Exactly, you know, and watching the film, I watched the what version did you watch, John?
I watched the Tamil version.
Oh, to me, I think I watched the.
I don't know what version's correct.
I'm not really sure. It wasn't the English one anyway, because the English one was 20 minutes shorter for some reason. I don't understand the reason for that. I think maybe some of the dance stuff, singing, was maybe cut out of the English one. I'm not sure.
Lose something palpable. When
I think you do, John. But my reaction to that was that I would have loved to have saw this film back in 2015, because that sort of title card at the end, the conclusion coming 2016. Was great. It was a great cliffhanger. I knew there was going to be a cliffhanger, John, because in hindsight we know of the second part, the conclusion, and we knew it was going to sort of leave us hanging in the balance, and it was a good way to leave it. I can't wait to see the conclusion now.
Stephen, I'm the opposite. I would have killed me having to wait 5 years or 4 years or whenever Bahubali.
It was only a year, John. I think it was only a year apart between them.
It was only a year apart. Well, that's
pretty
okay
sure.
then.
2015, 2016.
I like to binge things, so
I'll double check that anyway.
Yeah, they did say Prabhas took 3 years out of his schedule to film these movies, so
yeah, I think they were back to back.
He's not going to take a big break and lose money and stuff like that just doing these movies. But I suppose he's that dedicated. But Stephen, the structure in the second half of the movie, I says, did the flashbacks and the flip-flopping timeline nature of the second half of this movie, did it confuse you? Because I've got to be honest with you, it slightly confused me in stages. Now that I'm kind of fully aware, having watched the whole movie, I understand what they were doing. Very intelligent, as I say, structurally, to establish present-day characters and then go off and do a sort of flashback of kind of similar characters, but not, it's a father figure. That's ballsy to do that. But I like the structure of this movie. I thought it was totally unique. I ain't seen anything like it, man. Half the movie is set in current day, the other half's in present flashback time. It's interesting the way they establish them, as I says, without repeating myself, and then sort of give you
John,
why these people are the way
easier
they
structure could have been, they should have, or they could have, I should say, not should have. I think they did it right. I think their decision making was spot on, the way they structured this. But they could easily have done it the other way around, with the sort of past stuff at the very beginning of the movie and then worked our way up to present day. I'm glad they didn't, because obviously this indicates, and I'm guessing here, that the conclusion will be set mostly in the past.
No, I think the present.
I think it's going to be a flip, John. I think we're going to start with the past.
Oh yeah,
and then
probably right.
Then we'll go into the present,
and then it's like a free art movie over the.
It's almost like a mirror, like you know, a mirror opposite.
So it's present, past, present, and then you find out obviously where these characters have went in past up to current day. And then you play out. At the end
I'm guessing. I hope that's the way it plays out, because I think they've done really well with the structure in this film.
That'd be interesting.
Probably a risk as well. I've not seen many films like this structured this way. I can't speak for other Indian movies, John, but there's not a lot of films out there that are structured in this way.
Well, Stephen, if you're right, then starts the first act. Obviously, Shiva coming up onto the waterfall, learning out about his past. The middle act is just the past, the flashback. Then the final act is him come head to head and fighting Balala Deva with Katapa. That'd be very interesting. Never thought of that. That's actually really intelligent. If they do that, we'll find out.
I hope so.
I suppose maybe we're talking crap again.
I know.
We'll
look back in a week's time, we'll go, what were we thinking?
What were we thinking? We were talking absolute shite, like usual. But Stephen, performances in this movie, Prabhas, they always stand out. I've said he did have some solid competition though from Safaraji, is that how you say it? And obviously Rana Daggubati, who played Balala Deva, and then obviously Ramya Krishan, I think that was the main queen figure. But obviously Safia, I can't say that name. Safia Raj, played Katapa. Who was your standout? For me, Prabhas by a mile, and then probably followed by Balala Deva, and then Katapa as well.
Sathiraj for me was it was important for the story. The character Katapa was very important for the story as well, John. And there's something about his presence. Sathiraj.
You're saying that name so much better than me.
Had better. It's because I'm actually got the name right up on the screen now, John. Cheating, but
I've got the name in front of me and I still can't see it. Stephen Sathiraj. There you go.
He wasn't in the movie a lot, but in the scenes that he was in were really important, and it was important to understand his character as well. I think Sathiraj,
he's a leading figure.
Out with Prabhas is the standout, let's be honest with you. He carried the movie from start to finish, but I would say Sathiraj as well for me. But if I had to pick between both of them, it would be Prabhas, just because he's a great he's a fantastic actor, and to play two versions, not two versions, but two different characters in the same film, and it's only slight differences as well between them, which I didn't really notice until we started reading a bit of the trivia about his physicality.
Yeah, he lost weight.
Yeah, but I did notice his physicality as Bahubali, an absolute. Well, I think the name is something to do with. I can't remember what Bahubali means. I read it somewhere.
Strong arms.
Strong arms, yeah. So
it
makes sense.
Arms.
But I think Prabhas, for me, is a standout performer.
Stephen, I agree. He's the main man. He's doing double duty. He's playing two characters in this movie. But I agree, Savyaraj is very good as well. He's the sort of linking figure between the past and the present.
Yeah.
The sort of soul as well. He's connecting all of these characters together, and he was very impressive. I liked the performance.
Yeah,
an aesthetically very cool character too, with the chain armour, the beard. And Rana Daggubati, I hope that's how you say the name, Balala Devi, he's a very decent
he was
sort
good,
of sideman antagonist. I don't class him as an antagonist, as I did say, but he was good as well.
Yeah.
There was lots of good performances in the movie, but Prabhas, without a doubt, the main man in this movie. Stephen, technical stuff before we round up our thoughts on this movie. CG, cinematography, editing, score, already kind of touched on the editing structurally, really well put together this movie. I liked the editing for the most part. Lots of quick cuts at the start.
Yeah.
Kind of settled down a little bit in the middle parts, but really well edited. It flowed well. First hour flew in like that for me. Really enjoyed it. I watched this movie in about an hour and 40-minute chunk, and then the last hour today, and I liked the way it flowed. CG wise, the CG was absolutely fine for the budget. I thought it was okay. There was moments that were a little bit dodgy, but you expect that, man. It's not spending $100 million on CG, and it was absolutely fine. It was serviceable. It didn't take me out the movie all that much.
It told the story, didn't it?
Score was very, very good. We touched upon it. Epic as hell.
I would say so. For me, the score is probably the standout over visuals. That might be a bit controversial for some people, because I know that people have heavily mentioned in a lot of reviews about the visuals. Nothing wrong with the visuals or anything like that, but I'm a score type of person. I'm not really sure. I've not looked up the composer of the film, John.
I'll do it just now, Stephen. There you go.
It was very much up there like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the score for this. It was very epic. Every score throughout the film suited the mood of the scene as well. It just gave the film an added quality. Visuals for me, John, there was some bits in there that I felt were a bit cartoony. The big ball thing on the chain looked a bit too animated for me.
Yeah, the sort of mace.
But I'm nitpicking. I mean, most of the CG was very good. It outweighed the little sort of niggly stuff. And as you mentioned, John, the budget as well, you've got to put that into perspective as well. I thought they did really well. And
how far they stretched it, Stephen. I mean, there was some really big, epic sort of battle sequences and stuff like that, so they've done a really good job.
A lot of overhead shots as well, John. CG overhead shots. Because
some really good backdrops as well, Stephen. Some really good wide shots, colourful wide shots.
John, you know where this was set as well. 90% of the film was shot.
It's Hyderabad.
Yeah.
Well, my good friend was from. He's away to Saudi Arabia.
Beautiful country, John.
An amazing country, Stephen. I'd love to go to India. I just love the place. I love the food. I love everything about India. Music's brilliant.
Yeah.
As a Beatles fan, George Harrison went off. He lost himself in India with the sort of sitars and stuff like that. I love India.
You can understand
it's a great country. But Keeravani is the composer, Stephen. He's done the composing work for the second movie, which kind of makes me think they were shot back to back, perhaps.
I think so.
Released one year, released the other year.
Same,
Yeah, so that's interesting. But I really enjoyed the score. But Stephen, look, final thoughts on this movie before we round up this review. Has it got you excited for the conclusion? What's your final thoughts on it? Because for me personally, I really enjoyed it. It was different. Every movie we've reviewed now, we've reviewed 4 different indie movies now. They've all been distinctly different beasts. KGF was a sort of crazy movie. So quick, million cuts, mental. It took me about 10 minutes to
great action film.
A great movie. It took me 10 minutes to settle into it though, but I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. Padmavat was brilliant. Loved it. Sort of slow paced, drama driven movie. Shahid Kapoor, Ranveer Singh, fantastic in that movie. And then obviously last week Dingawa, sort of more realistic setting.
Yeah, more
drama,
Western style.
Yeah,
film,
biopic type, and that
Yeah.
was great too. They've all been different movies, and that's what I'm enjoying about it.
Yeah.
This was different again. It was like a big fantasy Lord of the Rings type movie.
John, I'm going to say
And I really
something here
enjoyed it.
after. We're obviously going to do the conclusion next week. It's
Yeah.
only right we do that, and I'm looking forward to it. To answer your question, I'm very excited to see the conclusion. I really want to see how this film is structured, not just the story. I want to know how this film's structured as well, because the structure of this movie is very memorable, and this will stay with me for a very long time because I've never seen that kind of structure. Interesting that you should say that the last 4 films have all been different genres. I think we might have to delve into a comedy a week after next.
Yeah, what one would we do then, Stephen? Because there's been a few.
Yeah, there's a few trailers we've reacted to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very funny trailers.
Maybe
So.
the one with was it Bad Hi Ho? The one with the baby.
The baby, yeah.
That was pretty damn decent. I liked in Good News as well. The swapping of the
That was good.
That was really
so,
good. So yeah, we'll
choices,
definitely dabble with comedy at some point. But Stephen, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really different. Some great performances in there. Visually very, in scale, very, how shall I put it? Ambitious. That's probably the best word I can conjure up at this moment. It's getting late, guys, here. But it was very ambitious to attempt all of what they did. Structurally really cool. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the second part. You see how they conclude all of this.
Yeah.
See if Bahubali finally faces up against Balaladeva, a younger man against a much older man.
Yeah.
But how's it going to balance out? I don't know. Time will tell. We'll find out next week when we watch it. But look, guys, that's going to round up our review, very lengthy review of Bahubali at the beginning.
Told to cut them down to 30
Oh,
minutes.
we can't cut movie reviews down to 30 minutes. We like to talk too much, Stephen. We are not a Chris Stockman. We just can't do it.
No.
We like to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. I can't do it.
No.
I'd speak 5 times as quick as I did just now to try and fit in everything I want to say about movies. This is a 3-hour, nigh on 3-hour long movie.
Yeah.
You can't do that in under
No,
half an hour, man. It's
definitely not.
impossible. Too much going on. Well, that's going to round it up, guys. What was your thoughts on Bahubali at the beginning? Did you enjoy it? Is it something that tickled your fancy, if you like? Have you seen the conclusion? Perhaps don't share below what happens, because that will ruin it for us. But maybe you can compare the two. Is this as good or is it as bad? Is the conclusion better than this, or is it worse? I suppose is maybe the furthest I'd like you to go. You can comment about this movie in general, about our review, down below in the comment section. And also like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this in the future, more reactions, more reviews, everything in between. And if you do, that's precisely what you'll get, guys. You get all of that and more. But look, as ever, until then, I'm going to try and hit the right macro here. Bye-bye.
Bye.